finally made it to the end, and I can't wait for this to be my last review. Well, I still have the reunion, but for now, this is Ready to Love, season number 5, the finale. Stay tuned. Hi there, Simpli Subbies. Welcome back to the Simply Stacey YouTube channel. It's your girl, Stacey. It is probably Tuesday by now, but I did watch and take my notes on Ready to Love season finale, DC Chocolate City edition on probably Saturday morning because it came on Friday night. And there's a reunion. That's really what I think is going to be like the best part of the entire show because, I mean, we did have that episode the week before with Phil and Shiloh that gave us a little spiciness to this season. But guys, it was really a dull one for me. Chocolate City did not give what Chocolate City was supposed to give. And so I was very disappointed. I love DC. I've had a friend who's lived there 10 plus years. And I visit once or twice a year. And I always see such like attractive people. Like men, women alike. Like almost everybody you see. They be dressing nice. They be looking good. And I just wasn't getting the vibes this time around. So I mean, there were a couple people I'm like, oh, okay, cool, but like it really wasn't doing it for me. But I do see that next season 6 will be filmed in Miami, so we can see what Miami or Dade County has to give. Okay guys, let's get to it. This one is episode number 12 and it is called One Last Assignment. So if y'all remember the whole Shiloh and Phil situation from last week and how she self-eliminated, well, we do remember that Sydney wanted to meet with Phil to discuss. This is actually her meeting with Phil. It took place on this episode instead of last week's episode, and basically she wants to hear Phil out, see where he's coming from, get his side of the story because she's heard what Shiloh has to say. They talk about all of their previous days. He's like, you know what, when you showed up, you know, you caught my eye. I didn't really move or say anything, but then we had our date at the gym and all this stuff. So they like kind of reminiscing on their dates. She was like, you know what? Yeah, all of that. I really like being around you. I can't stop smiling, but you know, I want to get into this topic. We were at the ladies' lounge and Shiloh did bring up y'all's incident. So you could tell that Phil was uncomfortable. He probably was tired of talking about this at this point. He thought all he had to do was talk to Tommy about it and Shiloh about it, and that was going to be it. He probably didn't realize that he was going to be brought up as the topic of discussion at the ladies' lounge, and especially because Shiloh did self-eliminate. Needless to say, she hears him out. She still thinks he's a protector. She's like, anybody that knows you would just know that, you know, you would never behave like that. I can't really see it. So basically, she's taking his word for it. He's like, I made a judgment call. But he did say, now this is the first time I believe I heard him say that he would apologize to Shiloh for how she felt. Now, I'm sure they had many conversations outside of the ones that we saw filmed. Probably that night. Maybe before they talked to Tommy. I'm not sure. Maybe even after they talked to Tommy. But in the ones on camera, he never really said like, you know what, I apologize. I made a judgment call, but I apologize that you felt uncomfortable with my decision. You know, I'd rather you be safe. So I am sorry that, I'll take that into consideration and it won't happen again with you or any other woman, you know, outside of you wanting to be picked up and all that stuff. But I don't think he gave her that apology like for how she felt triggered. He didn't know her triggers, but at the same time, don't put your hands on anyone who doesn't want you to put their hands on them. And maybe he should have been calling some producers and asking them to come down there and help her out, or one of her girls or something. I don't know, but I do think she a tad bit overreacted because I could see in the moment you're inebriated, he not telling you what you want to hear, you feel like he chose somebody else and he did not choose you, so you all in the fields. But what I just didn't like is it seems like she never came around to kind of sing it from his perspective. Like he's seen it from her perspective, like, okay, you were triggered, that could have triggered you emotionally to think that I was trying to harm you, which I was not, but okay. But she never said, I could see how you was trying to protect me, but don't do it that way. That doesn't work for me. Like she could never come around to seeing why he did what he did. And I thought that was a little closed off. Okay, anyway, so Shiloh and Phil get through it And she said that she believes that they've gotten closer from this incident. They see each other in different lights because she was supportive and kind and caring, and she heard him out. She didn't make snap judgments. And then she felt in what he was saying and how he presented it and how he said he wants to apologize to Shiloh, that she feels like she knows him a little bit better too. Okay, so now we're at the final brunch. So at the final brunch, everybody gets there. You know, they're saying hi to everybody. And Sabrina is saying that Walter still don't be calling her. I'm like, Walter, I don't know what it is, but he is not over the fact that Sabrina was not a call girl. I'm sorry. I think she said she was a dancer. So she was a stripper back in the day. And I knew that rubbed him wrong. He keeps saying he's trying not to be judgmental, but I know he don't like that. She said he's still very inconsistent with her. I'm like, okay, this is not good. This is the final day. And he basically saying, you know, Sabrina, I woke up with clarity that you are what I wanted. This is where we need to be. You know, everything aligned and brought us here. And she's just listening. But she was like, you know, yeah, it's a lot that has been going on or not going on. Like you calling me and contacting me and reaching out to me. And then... yeah, I don't like it. And apparently she has some qualms about that too. Those are red flags for her. Tommy tells him that the fellas are going to introduce their women to their families. So last week the men met the families of the women, and this week is the reverse. Okay, so, you know, Phil, this is so funny. He says my family could be embarrassing. So I'm like, is you paying some actors? Because I'm going to tell you, the people that he brought around do not seem like in any way they could have been embarrassing him. So I'm like, oh, you just picked the good family members, or what you do, Phil? Because he seemed real nervous about this whole situation. He was like, dang, that's too much. He looked so nervous. Okay, so first up is Frank. He has his two cousins who he says is like siblings to him. It was a younger cousin and older. Well, a younger cousin and an older cousin. I don't know if they were younger and older than him. I know the younger one was definitely younger than Frank. The older one could have been his age or something like that. He says that he's dating two women, so he lets them know that they're going to be meeting Sydney and Moomin. And Sydney is actually the first one to arrive. And of course, Sydney is gorgeous. They don't really have much to say. They talk about him being a father and would he want to be that. And Sydney does want children as well, so they do have that in common. One of the cousins asked, how does he feel? I think it's the male cousin who's older. How does she feel about him? Because Frank does have a lot of female friends. You know the industry he's in. And she's like, oh, I have no problem with that. I'm not at all intimidated. I trust him. He makes me feel comfortable. And I understand the entertainment industry. You know, that's our industry as well. Which is why they kind of linked up in the beginning. But when I say I didn't see the like natural chemistry between her and Frank, I saw more of comfort level. You're the only familiar face I know. We have mutual friends. And that's kind of what she says, like, we have mutual friends. And she asks if they think he's ready for marriage. And the younger cousin was like, yeah, I think he's ready for marriage with the right person. I'm like, okay, that's understandable. Anyway, it wasn't a whole lot there, but that's what it was. Next up was Moomin. Now, you know, Moomin is also African, and so is Frank. So again, last week I realized that they have a lot more in common than I initially thought. The cousins, as soon as she walked in, they like, oh, y'all look good together. I was like, oh, they like that brown skin on brown skin, honey. They like them together. Because Sydney was cute too, like, you know what I'm saying? But they made a comment, and maybe it was editing, but they made a comment on how they liked them together. They asked her too, did she want children? She said, yeah, you know, maybe 3. I want my children raised in the church. So, you know, it wasn't really a point of contention between the two of them, but she was celibate, and he said he was a very sexual person. But for the right person, he could, you know, I guess consider being abstinent or whatever. And so the church part, I don't know that ever really came up. If he must have said he was into church, or at least open to it, because I don't think Moomin would have stuck around if not, because that sounds like a deal breaker for her. And she also asked if she thinks that Frank is ready to love, and they said that he needs someone who would love and support him in what he has coming next. That's what the older cousin said. And she was like, okay, I think she's the one who asked, one of the women asked, like, about Frank, what is there anything that you see, like, concerning or anything that he has a flaw about or whatever? The young cousin was like, nope, he's perfect. I'm like, okay, nobody's perfect. But I understand y'all got his back, but y'all could have, like, done one of them interview questions when they ask you what your bad trait is and you still turn it around, flip it to make it a good trait. They didn't do that. And then the other cousin, he agreed. Frank is perfect. I'm like, way to have his back. But yeah. Okay, so basically his family said that there are two different kinds of women. The best personality, hands down, will go to Sydney. But Moomin is more family oriented and has stronger family values from their opinion and their conversation with her. And so, of course, it's up to Frank who he's going to decide in the end. Next up is Walter. So Walter brings his sister and his Thea, which I believe is his grandmother, and they meet Sabrina. It's so funny because as soon as they get there and he tells them, like, hey, I've been dating somebody for a couple of months. We're on this show. You guys are going to get to meet her. They start firing questions at him. Where's she from? What does she do? You know, has she ever been married? He was like, y'all grilling me. Wait till she get here and grill her. But this is the funny part because I think he didn't want to be grilled because he doesn't know the answers. They asked him where she was from. I'm gonna get y'all that a little bit later because that was the funniest thing. So as soon as she come, they asked her where she's from. She said, I was born in Korea. And when I say them two women paused, looked at Walter, he was like, oh yeah, I messed it up. I think I said Virginia. Dude, she said she was from Korea on day one. She got this huge Korean flag or something on her back. Walter, you do not know this woman. You do not want to know her. And when her friend said that you date younger women usually, I was like, oh, that's what it is. That's why he not really into her. 1. 2, she used to be a stripper. So you just like kind of tune her out. You don't be calling her nothing. Whew, child. It was a mess. They seemed to like Sabrina. She did ask them, like, how do you guys know when Walter's really into someone? And they basically said he's super affectionate and all this stuff. And then again, in the confessional, damn Sabrina talking about, well, he's not like that at all with me. He don't like you, baby girl. He doesn't like you. He's trying to get to the end of the show. He's trying to, like, keep a positive light on him, but he think you just gonna do the same thing. And it's crazy to me because you can't just not be calling people that you're into, and especially when they're your only option. But she said he's always kind of made her feel like option number 2 because when he decided he didn't want to be a Moomin anymore, then she really didn't hear from him, but she was the only one left. Okay. They did ask her about children because, you know, she has the 8-year-old daughter. She did talk about that. Now, they didn't say that Walter wanted children, but I think we do know that for sure that he does. So that's another red flag for her, for him. And she said that she does not want to, she did date someone for a really long time, brought around her daughter, but she's not into doing that anymore. You know, so it's really something she has to think about who she's going to end up with because she will not just be continuously bringing people around her daughter, which, I mean, that's good. She should not do that. They do point out that she is different than the other women he has brought around, which we all know now. He usually dates young girls. He says he likes her as a person and he can build on that as a foundation. So that was his rationale for her being different from the other women. He didn't say it in a way like, you know, what I found that I liked about her is that she is very more mature. Like when they said something, I think around her family or friends, her cousin, he said something. He likes that she gets his pop culture references because they're around the same age. Like, it's nothing like she's very mature. She knows what she wants. She's, you know, strong, and I appreciate that. Like, it wasn't really good qualities that he likes. He just be saying stuff, be like, okay, he's like, I like who she is as a person, and maybe we can build on that. Meaning, I don't like nothing else. I mean, I think he's probably physically attracted to her, but I mean, that's about it. Next up is Dante. He has his cousin and his brother. So I was like, okay, these some real people he got going on here. And I see that Aisha is no longer blonde. The latter half of the show, she went brunette. And I really like that look on her way better than the blondes. Not that she does the blonde an injustice. Some of her blonde looks are nice. Sabrina tried to pull off a long blonde crinkly curly wig at the brunch. It did not work for her. I was like, if anybody doing the blonde, at least Aisha does the blonde a little bit better. But she's a hairstylist, so she should. Aisha is meeting his cousin and his brother. And they ask, what brings you to DC? And she does say that her ex-husband, her past relationship, she was married to him. They had children. And, she had moved to DC and was there for years. And so she did decide to stay there, take some time, focus on herself, focus on her kids, get therapy. And she also has to be very careful with who she brings around her children. So a couple questions came up. I think they asked who pays the bill or what is your expectations in a relationship? And she was like, the man is a provider, he's a protector. I'm going to take care of the house. It's going to be a cooked meal. I'm going to make sure he's good. Like, he can pay the bills and I can pay like a bill or two. Dante in the confessional talking something that'll take some getting used to. So that means that's not his norm. But maybe for Aisha, he will do that. And the brother was like, what are you saying? Like, we were raised by a single mom. She was strong. She could do everything. She could take care of everything. She like, oh yeah, I could do that too. Because honestly, right now, at the moment, I am a single parent. But that doesn't mean I want to. I live in my feminine energy. And I pay a bill or two. I'm not paying all the bills. And he was like, yeah, she took us fishing. She taught us how to do this. She was like, yeah, I could do all that too. Just not something I want to do in a relationship. And I'm like, okay, girlfriend, I appreciate you being candid and honest. And now he knows what he's getting into. Either he could say yes or he could say no and move along. But she was like, yeah, I'll take care of my man. I'll cook for him. I have on lingerie when I'm doing so and all this stuff. She's like, I live in my feminine energy. And I think that Dante actually likes that. The cousin, I think he more so was like, yeah, I kind of like it. The brother didn't really give his take on Aisha, but I think overall they kind of both liked her. Next is Phil. So Phil has his aunt and his cousin, and he was really nervous. But Sydney comes, she's very disarming and very bubbly, and, they thought she was very cute. They did comment on that, and they asked what she liked about him. She said that he's so protective and, she can communicate with him. They had like a 2-hour conversation. And, she was like, I'll talk to him for like 2 hours and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, she not doing that with Frank. Because when he all in the nightlife and all this stuff. And so they asked him, I think, about more women. He was like, well, actually, she has another person. I'm like, this is my only person. But so they asked, like, if it was not Phil, would it be Frank? And she said, well, honestly, Frank and I have mutual friends. We are in the same industry. And I think I don't know what she said. Was it fun with Frank? Something to that nature, like when they hang out and they're doing like the business situation. But Phil makes her feel calm and at peace, and she likes how she feels. And I was like, that was a good answer, because you didn't really like throw Frank like, I don't really like that dude. You said what you said, but when it comes down to it, which is more important, being calm and peaceful, because that's what Phil brings out of you, or this old energetic fun side that Frank apparently does. He says he always smiles when he's around her, and he really, really does like Sydney. But I knew that he had picked Sydney, and that's why Shiloh had her whole blow up with him at the bar, because he hadn't picked her, and he didn't want to just say it right there and spoil it, because he probably thought she would leave, or he may have been trying to still decide. But after that whole blow up, then of course his decision was way easier, even though he probably had already made it, basically. Then they do the finale. So we're going to see who's going to choose who and all this. Because we know right now Frank still has Moomin and he has Sydney. He has Sydney and he has Moomin. And then Sydney has Phil and Frank. Now we know Walter only has Sabrina and Dante only has Aisha. So first up, and they do this like back and forth, and I don't like that. So I'm just going to get all the way through them all first. But the first people that come up are Walter and Sabrina. They have on this like matching pink. And it sounds like they did not do that on purpose. She has like this flowy dress. She's holding the sleeves up. I think it's one of her designs, because she's a fashion designer. Anyway, he's like, oh, you look like a princess. And she corrected him. She was like, queen. She's like, I know one of your young princesses. I'm a queen. I'm 47, sir. He was like, yeah, queen. It was funny to me. And basically he says he woke up the morning of the retreat with clarity, and that was after him and Moomin had that issue where she walked away from him, of course. So she made it easier for him, I guess. But he was like, and I really like you. Okay, so they actually gave us this cliffhanger between Sabrina and Walter and the other people. But like I said, I'm just going to close one out. So Walter seemed to be very shocked when Sabrina tells him that she sat with us for 24 hours and all she can say is he's been inconsistent with her the entire time. He's always made her feel like she was his second choice. He does not call her. He was consistently calling her or reaching out to her the first week and a half. But in the following 2 months, nothing. It's not been consistent. And he did tell the family that they had been dating for about 2 months. So he seemed shocked. He was like taken aback, looking crazy. He didn't get belligerent or he didn't say nothing nasty to her. But he did seem shocked when he was talking to the confessional that she even did not choose him. I think he just wanted to go ahead and get chosen and they was just going to be moving along from there. I don't even know if he was going to ever call her afterwards, honestly. If she would have said yes, I don't think they would have. When I got to the reunion, she would have been looking crazier because they wouldn't have been together and he would have been, she would have been like, I haven't talked to him. I haven't heard from him much since that day. You know how it goes. But she didn't give him that opportunity to embarrass her. So she did what she had to do, and I applaud Sabrina for that because all the red flags was there, honey. He was not into you. He was never going to get over the fact that you didn't want more children, that you used to be a stripper, and that you were older. Point blank and period. Okay, and maybe that is why Walter dates younger women is because he still has no children. So maybe that is a thing. Yeah, that was basically it. Next, there was Sydney. And so how they filmed Sydney, it looked like she was going to meet Frank because they also filmed Frank. So Sydney was there talking about her process walking towards somewhere. And then Frank was doing the same thing, but they did not actually end up going to meet each other. Sydney was waiting and she actually met up with Phil. So I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know if that meant he was going to get let down easy or she was going to pick him. I don't know what this means because they don't have enough of these where I be knowing how it's going to play out. Like with The Bachelor, you be like, oh, Lord, you never want to be the first one because you know they're going to send you home because the good one, the one they're going to pick and want to be engaged to, is coming. Now, I think one season they did switch it up, but that was even more awkward. So the guy stood up there and watched as the other person got broke up with. It was just weird. So I don't think they've done that much since then because, I mean, it can only go one or two ways. So she waiting on Phil. He opens up about their time together, talk about the pool party, and you know how he liked her back then, and all this stuff. She says he's kind, God-fearing, and I knew right away there was butterflies. She didn't have butterflies with anyone else. And I feel like that is what I saw. So if there was a genuine connection, I think Walter and Sabrina initially had a genuine connection. Then he found out how old she was. Then he found out some other stuff he just wasn't feeling. But when they first came and locked eyes, like he told his family, you know, they just giggled and all that stuff, and they still be doing it because I think he did like her, but she just doesn't fit his mold. But Sydney, I knew she really liked Phil after they had their first one-on-one date when she invited him to the gym. I could tell that they had just like a genuine, non-forced vibe. And she said he gave her butterflies, and so that's how she knew it wasn't Frank because he never gave her butterflies. The sister was like, I mean, but do you like him? And she had to think about it. I was like, nah, girl, you don't like him. You be kissing him. You be, whatever, but you don't really like him. So Frank is walking. He says he hopes that she chooses him because he is ready to choose her. So I'm like, oh, who is her? Is it Sydney? Does he think that Sydney didn't pick Phil? Is it Moomin? Who is it? So he's waiting. He's confident in his decision. And then Moomin does show up. I'm like, okay, so he picked Moomin. So I was like, I wonder if Sydney and Frank had talked about it before so they wouldn't be having to embarrass each other because they definitely didn't go back and tell the other people that they didn't pick them. So what would they have been doing? Just standing there? I don't know. I think maybe one season was there a person that just stood there and the person did never show up or they was late or something. Because I'm trying to figure out how does that work if you didn't get chose. But apparently they all chose there are other options, so everybody got an option. He has red roses for Moomin, and when he gave them to him, he was like, "These are for you, baby," and kissed her. And I was like, oh, okay, so he is not breaking up with her. He is picking her. And he basically told her he thought about it and he's choosing her. And she wanted to make sure that he chose her not as like a consolation prize, but that he chose her, which it sounds like he did from what he's saying. And I'm sure him and Sydney probably had that conversation. I guess maybe on the reunion we'll find out a little bit more. Or when they start doing all these podcasts and lives on their Instagram, because that's where I be hearing all the tea. She said she was drawn to Frank from the beginning, and I was like, but where are you? Because you didn't start talking to him to that golf outing where Sabrina took Dante, because you was feeling Dante at that moment, and then now you feeling Frank or whatever. But maybe that's what she needed to realize, that she actually liked Frank. And she asked him, "Are you ready to go to church with me?" And he says yes. And they both choose each other. Last up, of course, is Dante and Aisha. And basically, he had brought her roses too, some light pink roses. They made a connection. They made one toward the end, but that's all that matters, is that they actually did make a connection. I think they have a good vibe and good chemistry as well. He doesn't know what the future holds, but he does choose her. So I think he's like, we kind of started this thing off late, so we're not like in a relationship, but we together. That's kind of how I took it. But then she's all emotional, and she says he, lets her apologetically who she is, and she chooses him too, but she does allude to like, we exclusive, we together. And I was cracking up. But yeah, guys, that is the end of it. I definitely saw feeling Sydney choosing one another. I thought Frank would probably choose Sydney too, but he did surprise me and choose Moomin. Like I said, once I found out that they have like cultural similarities, I was like, okay, I can see why they still like each other, because at first I didn't see that. They just show him and Sydney just kind of liking each other, him being infatuated with her and her just, being bubbly with him. So yeah, there was no surprises. I think we'll be surprised at how this thing plays out at the reunion. So I want you guys to stick around, come back. Please like, comment, subscribe to my channel. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Let me know what you guys thought of this season, because I really did not feel it. I guess I'm going to be watching Miami, and I'll probably review Miami as well. But like, if Miami is another DC, I'm going to have to be like chucking the deuces. Like, Houston was good. They did some different things when they were on the island. On the resort, and then when they got to date in the city. So we got to see that two ways. And I believe Atlanta, they might have done two seasons in Atlanta as well. The first one was like, okay, this is new. I didn't like that very first one as well, which is why I think they've started renaming them. Like, they say this is season 4, but this is definitely season 5. But they changed the premise and how it works. It was only 3 men. It got down to 3 men and like 10 women. And the 3 men got to date all the women on the first season. I didn't like that. And they probably have said, okay, that was just an experimental show. It started season 1 again, where there were equal men and equal women, and they, eliminated each other. So maybe that's why they keep the seasons. Because I call it season 5, they call it season 4 on the OWN network. But that's probably why. But yes, please, in the comments below, let me know what you guys think. Yes, and this is one before the last episode that we will be reviewing. So go ahead and watch this. Go back and catch up if you're not caught up, so you can know where we are at the reunion show. Watch my other videos. There is actually a playlist for Ready to Love, so you can go back and watch all the seasons that I've actually reviewed. I think I started maybe at Last Resort, and if not, it was definitely Houston. I think it might have been after the Simone and Rashid season. I can't remember. I can't recall. But you guys can go and check it out on my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. Happy New Year. And until next time, see ya.